Hello, I'm Matt and I am a psychic medium, but it has taken me quite a while to feel comfortable saying that. In my podcast, I explore the up and down journey of getting comfortable with my psychic and mediumship abilities. I will be talking with guests about their experiences, whilst turning the spotlight onto myself and figuring out how I can embrace my gifts while living a normal life. So welcome to the Psychic Explorer. Hello everyone and welcome to this very special episode. For those of you listening live, you would have noticed there's been a huge pause. I released the last episode at the end of January, and we're now halfway through April, at least at the time of recording. And it's been a funny one. I felt like I really needed to just stop the podcast because I wasn't necessarily happy with where it was going. It was a little bit too spontaneous. I didn't really know where it was heading. And so I've taken this lesson to just stop, and that's a good lesson for everyone, I think. Just to stop, think, and assess where we want to go. I came back from Asia and I felt really good. It was a new year, a new beginning, and then life happened. Things happened in life, and that got me a bit down. I wasn't motivated, and I thought, who am I to tell you that life is rosy, life is good, when I was feeling the way that I was? But now I've come back, I've got a plan, things are more organised, and I'm really looking forward to showcasing some fantastic guests. I've already recorded a few episodes, so I'm not going to be killing myself by trying to get them out to you. And this episode is a special one. Today I'm interviewing psychic medium, mentor, teacher Dana Willey. Not only is she all of those things, but she's also a podcaster, so I really felt the pressure was on because I wanted to make sure it was right. Her podcast really shone a light to me when I was going through this journey, when I was in quite a dark space. It made me realise that you didn't have to be totally woo-woo to do all this stuff. You could live a normal life and still be in touch with these abilities. And when I felt like I wanted to join another circle, I went to Dana's online circles, which I felt were really supportive. It was a space where you could make mistakes. It was a space where you could practice different modalities. If I'm coming across as a bit gushy, it's because I do hold Dana in such high esteem, partly because the words that she uses are so full of light. The philosophy that she talks about, it really touches me. But also because of the impact that she had on me at the beginning of my journey. In this conversation, Dana focuses on trust. Trust in spirit, trust in mediumship, and more to the point, trust in yourself. And I feel it's such an apt topic to come back to you from this break to discuss. You know that my previous episodes have focused quite heavily on self-doubt. And I really hope that Dana's words fill you with confidence that you may need, the confidence that you might need to be reminded that you have. Because once you find the confidence to trust, you find the confidence to be yourself. And this was such a poignant message that came through. So I hope you enjoy this interview. Listen to her words, and I hope they fill you with as much inspiration as they did me. Here's the recording, guys. Dana Willey is a psychic medium who took steps to explore her abilities in 2017. Since then, Dana has studied under renowned mediums and mentors including Eileen Davies and Megan Elisa, as well as attending the Arthur Findlay College here in the UK. Together with her good friend and fellow medium Matthew Tao, Dana co-hosts the excellent podcast I'm a Medium, Ask Me How, as well as the Supernormal podcast, in which she, Matthew and Megan discuss how they feel about the paranormal and other spooky topics. Dana offers a unique but grounded approach in her readings and teaching. She has been proudly serving spirit as a mentor and teacher since 2020 and runs weekly online circles, sitting in the power meditations, as well as a supportive online space which allows participants to practice the modality of their choice. So I am really feeling the pressure today because not only am I interviewing someone I really respect and admire, but I'm also interviewing an experienced podcaster. Dana, welcome to the Psychic Explorer. How are you?
I'm so honored to be here. I got very tearful when you said proudly serving spirit, because I think that's what we all do. And I think that's what we endeavor to do. Um, and I think I gave you a bio and you just spiced it up in the most lovely way. And I'm so honored by the words you chose. That's, like I said, that's all I ever hoped to do when I ever stepped forward in this. I know you mentioned 2017, but that is when I kind of got the nudge for it was I had been pulled to work, or I had an awareness of spirit my whole life. It was like, oh, that's just kind of what it was. And but in 2017 I finally got that tickle that it was like, finally I've got to figure out if this is real or if there's something to this. And I never had the intention of being a professional or teaching or being a podcaster or anything like that. And I think at the end of the day, that's all I ask for, is to serve the spirit world. So,
And you do it so well. Regular listeners will have already heard your name on previous episodes. I've spoken about your excellent, wonderful podcast, I'm a Medium. It was fundamental in helping me realize that what I was feeling could actually be real. It helped me to not feel quite so alone on this journey. And actually something you have taught me, Dana, not only in your podcast, but also in your circles, is that you just have to trust. And I find that really difficult at times, especially coming to this from a skeptical point of view, particularly from grief as well. It's really tough to think, is this just my brain protecting me? Is this real? So today I am trusting that all will go well and that it should be all good. But before we delve into the topic of trust, I would like to start at the beginning, and I would really be interested to know what brought you to this path and how did you begin exploring?
yeah. So as I said, I had like this awareness my whole life, I always call to like this one memory. It was like, you know how you have that first memory as a kid or whatever. But I remember going to my great grandma's house and like being like, there's this one room, and I was like, I think grandpa died in that room. I didn't know that. And my mom got really freaked out. And I had this like awareness at that point, like, oh, these aren't things we talk about. And so I just kind of suppressed it. And it was like something we don't talk about. And then, at the age of 11, my dad died. And isn't it funny? Not funny, but this is so much how we are drawn to this path. And from that moment on, from the moment that my dad passed on, this just was what I do. And I just became, amongst my friends and family, the person that talked to her dead dad all the time. And that was just normal. And it was like, that was okay. Like people could compartmentalize that. And it was very normal for me that I just had this interaction with my dad all of the time. He was omnipresent with everything. I was getting signs. I just knew when he was around. And it was like, okay, fine. It's my dad. And I'm very comfortable with that, which is quite interesting because so many of my students feel like they can connect for others, but they have a hard time connecting with their own loved ones. Where for me, my loved ones were almost the ones that taught me how to do mediumship. And then it just progressed. And it was like, I went from being the girl that talked to her dead dad all of the time to I couldn't go to the grocery store without Aunt Edna popping in, or feeling the awareness of somebody else's energy. And it became a lot of psychic hits all of the time. It wasn't even mediumship to the point where it was just like, I just would have awarenesses and I would feel other people's feelings. And I lost me. I lost who I was because I was so aware of my surroundings, of everything that was going on, I didn't want to leave the house anymore, and it didn't feel good anymore. And it actually started earlier than 2017, but I had started going to therapy, and my therapist said to me, you might be an empath. And I was like, I don't know what that was. And I went to Google and I was like, tick, 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 tick. Yeah, I have all of those things. And I started to deep dive into like, how would I not be an empath? How can I start protecting myself? And it's funny because now I teach an empath class of like how to protect yourself and how not to go into the world and be this huge sponge. And through this whole journey, it was like me finding me and the authentic part of me. And in 2017 is when I finally was like, I got to figure out if I'm making this shit up. I'm sorry, I cuss, Matt. You know this about me.
No, you're fine. Honestly, you're all good.
I should. And if you listen to my other podcasts, you would know that I really do cuss. I feel like the spirit world probably cusses too, but it's fine.
Honestly, it happens to me all the time. Whenever I swear when I'm doing a reading, my face-to-face mentor looks at me and says, Matt, cut it out. But I'm like, it's what I'm feeling. It's what I'm channeling.
It's funny. This is so funny. I promise I'll get back to my story. But I had a spirit-led reading that I was doing the other day, and the grandfather came forward. And the first thing I knew, I had an awareness that it was a grandfather straight away. And then immediately he said, son of a bitch. And I was like, I'm really going to say this. But that's how she knew it was her grandpa right away, because that's all. He used to slap his knee and say, son of a bitch. And it was funny because Eileen Davies, who I'd studied with, oh God, she would have freaked out if I would have done that in one of her classes. But I don't know. It was funny. Anyway, 2017, I decided to go to a development circle because I needed validation, because you had mentioned something about being skeptical. And I highly recommend being skeptical. I don't think we're skeptical enough in the spiritual community. I think we buy everything hook, line, and sinker. We go to every metaphysical shop, buy every crystal and every smudge stick, every book, every whatever, and we buy every guru, every whatever, without really fundamentally testing it and evidentially looking at it, which is why I love mediumship so much, because there is evidence behind it. So I went to my first development circle in 2017 after doing a lot of meditation, a lot of deep diving, and I went, oh shit, I'm actually good at this. And I remember calling my husband on the way home from that going, there's actually something to this. And from then on out. But I always say, I did not intend on doing this professionally. I didn't go to that first development circle with the intention of this is my life. This is what I'm going to be doing now. It was just to see if I was crazy or not. So that's how I got here.
It's strange, isn't it? Because so many people I talk to about this, their catalyst is the same. It's grief. And I find that so fascinating, morbidly fascinating maybe, that this opens up from the same place.
It's part of our human condition. And I've come to realize, who among us hasn't experienced some layer of trauma or loss or discomfort, right? And I think that the spirit world communicates through us through the language of feeling. I truly feel like emotion, sensation, feeling is the number one way that the spirit world is going to communicate with us. And we need that language of emotion or feeling to communicate that heart-to-heart, soul-to-soul connection. So to me, in so many ways, it would only make sense for us to be good mediums and good communicators, for us to have that alphabet, that language for them to use. If everything was wonderful and we had never had anything to reference or use, because so many of us, Matt, you've become such a beautiful medium in your own practice. How many media readings do you have where everybody just dies lovely as an old lady in their bed at the age of 92? People die of overdoses. They die because they were really horrible people to the people in their life. They cheated, they stole, they do bad things when they're here. They die of unfortunate circumstances, and that's part of the story. And I think we have to sometimes live through some difficulties to be able to tell their story sufficiently and accurately.
You mentioned earlier that you were the kid who was talking to your dad after he had passed, and I can only imagine the dynamics and situations of that in itself could have brought up. But I wonder, when you decided to step onto your path, how did your friends and family treat you? Did they treat you differently?
Yes. So it's always weird coming out of the woo closet is what I like to call it. The people that I thought would really support me didn't necessarily, and the people that I thought would didn't. It was kind of this this very interesting thing. I slowly shared this with the people as I felt comfortable with it. There were I had a best friend who we used to go get readings together all the time before I started development. And she was very much part of the whole development process. Obviously, my husband knew. He was highly skeptical of everything. Really our whole relationship together as an atheist, then kind of warmed up as an agnostic and came into all of this very skeptical, and now has become like my biggest fan. So kind of even meeting him at his interest level, where I had a best friend that was like, oh my God, Dana, tell me every reading, tell me every little thing, to him going like, what the fuck are you doing? My mom was very supportive, but everybody kind of was different. Like I had friends that I had not shared any of this with. And as I started to come out of the woodwork, I remember one of them calling me and going, what? Who? Where? Because some of this I kept very private to me. And so I feel like as we navigate this, first it's become something very personal and special to us. And wanting people to accept it and love it as much as we do is a tender thing. But I always encourage people to like meet people wherever anybody else is at. It's, I know you're in the UK, but like in America, like religion is such a big deal, and proselytizing and, come believe. And that's not what this is. This is for me. If you're interested, I'm happy to answer questions, but realizing like, this is just part of me. And if you want to learn more, I'm happy to answer it for you. But like, you kind of have to be comfortable with who you are and not care what people think. Now, all that being said, if I'm on an airplane and people ask me what I do, I don't particularly like to tell them I do this stuff. If I'm just meeting somebody at a cocktail party, this is not the icebreaker that I want to tell people. I was at a friend's 50th birthday party like in December, and I was telling everybody like, oh yeah, no, I do this, I do that. And then somebody else knew what I did, and they're like, oh my God, this is the girl, this is the medium. And I was like, oh yeah. So, and then everybody started, yeah.
A party trick.
Then your party trick. And like, can you do it now?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. So far on this journey, it sounds like you've had a lot of confidence. You came out to people around you to say you could do this. But did you have any self-doubt?
Tons. I think that was the biggest thing for me. The imposter syndrome is probably my biggest Achilles heel in my mediumship. The thing that got in the way of my surrender, the biggest. And, the foundations, the fundamentals of how we connect as mediums, very, very simple. The thing that will always get in the way of our mediumship is our humanness. Our inability to just say the thing, to be vulnerable and just go, I'm just going to say it, or to believe in ourselves, to want to do it perfect. I was and am always going to be a perfectionist. And so if it wasn't perfect, I didn't want to do it, or all of that. So actually building up the confidence, believing in myself was a huge thing. Even, and I don't, knock on wood, like I feel like I've got it pretty under wraps, but I don't feel like I got it pretty under wraps until even 2 years ago.
This journey can go on forever. We all know we never stop learning, either in life or on this path in particular. But I find it interesting because I was talking to my face-to-face circle leader last night, and she's been doing this for 30 years, and she was saying she had no self-doubt. Like from day one, she knew what was going on, and she had a lot of confidence. And I said to her, oh my God, I am so envious of you. I wish I had that confidence, or at least had that confidence when I first started out.
But ask me this question, and I'll ask you this question, Matt. Ask me how much my self-confidence got in the way of my day-to-day life. And I'll tell you it was the same as it got in the way of my mediumship. Same level. So I would ask you the same, like, how much do you get in your own way of believing in yourself in your day-to-day life, right? So the same things that are going to inhibit our connection and our mediumship is the same themes and processes that are getting in the way of us moving forward in our day-to-day life. At Mediumship with Heart, what Matt and I founded that company with is that, yes, again, the foundations of mediumship are very easy to learn. It's the personal development. That's 90% of your mediumship development is the personal development. And for me, it was the confidence. That was my personal development piece, that I had to be confident in myself. And within that, I always said that mediumship allowed me to be the most authentic that I had ever been in my life. I was the queen of putting on masks for other people. Of what do you need me to be? How can I people please for you? You can't do that with mediumship. It either is or it isn't. All of those masks are stripped away. You're just bare. This is who I am. And then within that, you have to have confidence of and I'm okay with wrinkles and with all of it. I'm okay with this. And that's the personal development.
I like to think that there's a phrase that I've coined, and it's being comfortable with the uncomfortable. You just got to put yourself out there and do it. And also look at your past, look at your trauma. Work through those issues. I said on an episode a few episodes back now about the bullying I experienced when I grew up. And it took me about 5 attempts to record that episode because every time I got to a certain part, my brain would just freeze up and I would go, oh, I don't know what to say next because I hadn't really dealt with the issues. And it wasn't until I recorded that episode that I realized that the people in my life that I judge, the people in my life that I avoid, that all stems from the bullying in my childhood. When that bully cast their stone into the lake of my childhood, the ripples from that stone are still radiating out now and affecting my adulthood.
Absolutely.
So I was going to ask you if you think there is a link between getting through or past the traumas that was your catalyst and getting past any self-trust issues. But actually, I think you might have answered that already.
Yeah, no, it 100%. And it still pops up, but the trust part will always be there. I want to make sure we talk on that because trust is such a big thing. Even when you're talking about the bullying and things like that, trust is such a huge part of mediumship. And it was, even within my imposter syndrome, it was me trusting myself. I always ask the students, do you trust the spirit world that they're going to show up? Because they're already here. Do you trust? And, oh, yeah. Okay, now do you trust yourself? And that's always the thing, because I didn't feel worthy enough. I had a worthiness issue. So it wasn't me not trusting them. It was me not trusting me. It was not me believing in my own worthiness, that I was good enough, that I was okay enough, that I was whatever I needed to be. But the spirit world chose me or pulled me to this for a reason. I speak about it being your special spice for whatever reason. I may not be the medium for you, but Matt, you might be the medium for somebody, right? Your voice, your story, the way my dad died might be the vocabulary I need to touch your heart to bring your loved one through. I just need to show up and trust that I'm being pulled to be here in this moment, in this time. And you said it, being comfortable in the uncomfortable. It allows us to just show up and trust that we were pulled to show up in this moment and just be there. And that trust part is, once we allow for that trust, that's when the game changes.
I really hope you're enjoying this conversation with Dana Willey. I find her words so full of light. Just a reminder that if you wanted to reach out to me, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at the.psychic.explorer. Let me know if you know of anyone that you would like interviewed, if there's anybody that inspires you. I'm always on the lookout for people who I find interesting, who I think you might find interesting. So you know where to go, like and subscribe and all that jazz. But now let's get back to Dana with some more practical tips on how to trust in not only yourself, but also in spirit. So Dana, do you have any personal rituals or practices which help strengthen your trust with spirit? And I find it interesting what you were saying before the break about trusting in spirit or trusting in self, because I've got written here as a question. Trust yourself or trust in spirit. So I will let you decide which one you want to answer on that one.
Yeah. It's so funny because I used to be the ritual queen. Like, I used to have to burn Palo Santo, and like I used to like go around my room with like a bell, and like, I mean, it was like a full-on orchestration before I did anything.
Full on woo woo.
Full on, the woo was in the house. Woo woo. I'm just kidding. I don't do anything magical or crazy anymore. I think sitting for spirit, I think, again, building that trust, building that relationship. I have been just blessed to work with some amazing mentors and teachers, even the teachers that weren't great, that I don't put on my resume of people that I've learned from. I've learned a lot from them too. But who I learned the most from are my guides and helpers and from the spirit world. And we don't do that unless we sit with them. And so sitting for spirit, I like to do it daily. I like to be a good girl and say I do it daily. Sometimes I don't.
Sorry to interrupt you, but for listeners who might not know what that means, could you explain what that is?
Yeah, so it's called sitting in the power. Some say sitting for power, whatever you choose to say. But it's really sitting without any intention for anything to happen. It's opening up our power, our awareness, our energy, letting that blend with spirit energy, and really just being attuned in whatever way we need to be the best instrument we can. So that's also inviting our guides, our helpers, our friends to from the other world to work on us. And maybe one day our clairvoyance is getting worked on. Maybe one day we're feeling emotional or whatever. But within that, I feel that connection and that attunement each day is the best thing that has helped me in that trust, in that building of a relationship with the spirit world. We talk about, if you haven't ever heard of the term of being spiritualized, of like, yeah, we can say I'm giving you all of this evidence, but this is that touching, that feeling, that tangibility that, I'm talking to the invisible person in the room, but for us as mediums, this is the tangibility factor. So sitting for me is my ritual, if you will, or even, I sit weekly for trance and do certain things like that have really enhanced that tangibility, that thing that allows trust, that when I feel that, like that little shift or that change in the room, that I'm like, there they are. I know that they're here. So that's my ritual.
For many, fear might come from the thought of making a mistake or saying the wrong thing during a reading. Dana, would I be able to invite you to be vulnerable and share with our listeners a mistake which you have made during your practice, and how have you learned from that mistake?
Ooh, well, first, I love the word no. The word no from a sitter does not scare me. And in your development, first and foremost, becoming neutral to that word is going to be your superpower. So I always tell my students that the word no is never going to go away. So the more that we can just embrace that, the better. I think a few mistakes that we make as mediums is walking away from the evidence because we got to know. Instead of giving our full trust, coming back to that trust to the spirit world, because we know without a shadow of a doubt that we got the evidence that we did, we run away from the piece of evidence because our sitter said no. When everything that they're telling us is like, nope, this is something. Instead of revisiting that no, seeing where the evidence is leading us. There's been so many times where in my earlier readings, things like that, I ran away from evidence because the confidence, because I was like, well, they said no, I want to be right. I think the no's can lead us in a beautiful direction in a reading. So I don't fear no's at all. I think the other thing that I made a mistake with early on, and this is less in my readings, but more so just in my understanding of spirituality, and it's really framed where I've moved everything here forth, is I listen to a lot of people and their opinions on things and their takes on things. And, God, there's in every society and every religion and gosh, I'm just one of many mediums out in the world that has their opinion on things. Take what resonates for you and leave the rest. I took on other people's practices and their beliefs of like stuck spirits and things like that. And it never resonated for me, but because somebody else told me, that's what I thought at the very beginning of my development. And so I was doing rescue circles and stupid shit like that there was no proof or evidence for. And, sometimes we don't know better because we don't do better because we don't know better. But it makes me sad because somebody felt like their loved one was stuck or got bad information. And so I always learned when that dogma was unpacked of like, no, that's not true. They're all okay. I've never not been able to contact somebody. What does a stuck spirit feel like versus a not stuck spirit? Wait, they all feel the same. So what's a stuck versus a not stuck, right? And so when I started to unpack that, I was like, this is just all biases that we bring to the table. And maybe it was part of my evolution, and maybe it was part of what I needed to figure out on my own. But I think unpacking why do you believe what you believe is one of the best things that I would impart to anybody as we embark on any spiritual practice, right? We all come to the table with how we were raised culturally, how we were raised religiously, how we were whatever. And then we go to these different places and they're like, believe this, believe this, believe this. What does the evidence show you? What are you moved by? And then being flexible through the rest of your life to let it move you or change you in whatever way that the evidence or your experience actually does, without having it. Because we will always try to, because we're human, try to make something fit our dogma, right? So I think that was one of the biggest, I don't know if I answered your question, but I think that was one of the biggest mistakes I made early on in my development.
It's interesting because the things you are saying are resonating with me, and they are similar to the themes that my face-to-face mentor talks about. And you're right, because I went to a circle before the one I go to currently, and it was great because it got me on the road and it allowed me to practice. But there were some things that they were saying in there which didn't quite sit right with me. They weren't horrendous at all. It was fun. It was a great experience, but they didn't quite resonate with me. But I never stood up and said that didn't feel right to me. And as we talk about trust, we compare ourselves to people who have been doing this for much longer. And I certainly thought, well, I can't say anything because they obviously know more than I do. But actually, when it comes to it, your truth is just as valid.
And ask questions. Ask questions. I think that's I just took what somebody said as gospel because they had been, to your point, doing it longer than I had. And like, what makes you think that way? What's been the thing that made you have that experience or that opinion or that whatever? Ask questions. Look at the history of practices. When I got a reading once and she's like, you need to clear your house. And I was like, okay, how do I do that? She's like, sage. And I was like, okay, that's something I have regret about because I wish I would have researched it. And now I know. Now I know better. I do better. But I have regret over using white sage and using somebody else's practice that was not mine to use. But I think that is our responsibility of, as we know better, we do better. And as we have curiosities about different practices of like, where does this come from? Where does it stem from? Is it appropriate for me to be using that practice? Because I think so many of us just like jump in because we're scared or because we're like somebody told us to do it and they know better. Okay, well then I guess I'll do it. Ask questions. And if you're not in a place that is accepting of those questions, you're in the wrong place.
I know you said earlier on that the best thing people can do is to sit in the power. Let's go a bit deeper than that though. What if someone is still struggling with the reality of this? They're still not convinced that actually this is real. What advice could you give to someone who might feel that there is something going on but can't quite get past the woo-woo-ness of it or can't get quite past the idea that this could be real?
I mean, hold off. What's the rush in making a decision? First off, there's no pressure. I first off welcome skeptics to watch me read all the time. I think that just come and watch other readers read. If they're, there's plenty of places that you can watch different demonstrations and things. Are you moved? Are you moved by what you're seeing? Is there discernment? I mean, I'm a stickler for that. I'm still a skeptic. I believe in the spirit world and I believe that there's connections. I believe there's evidence, but I will watch readers read and I'm like, you're not connected, because that's my understanding of like, yeah, you're cold reading. You're just giving Barnum statements. And I, as a teacher, understand all of the tricks of the trade of like, yeah, you're full of shit. You're not actually connected to anything. So it's okay to be skeptical. I think having grounded skepticism, even to my what I was saying previously about asking lots of questions, continue to ask lots of questions. There is no rush to conclusion on any of this. Have an open, grounded, skeptical mind. You can be spiritual and still do those things. So watch people see live demonstrations. They're on Zoom. There's on public platforms like social media, in different spiritualist churches. You can go see things like that. Go to development circles. Do it for yourself. That was it for me. So I wouldn't have necessarily believed that I was actually doing this until I could read for a complete stranger that there's no way that I knew anything about and bring the ungoogleable information. There's just no way. So that was what I needed for me to move the needle for me.
Exactly the same for me. I used to say I need a certificate from someone at Psychic University to say that I can do this.
Yeah. And it's with enough consistency too. We can all have a lucky guess or a flash in the pan, but it's like, this is happening with enough consistency with people that there's no way, I don't know them. I've never met them. I'm pulling information. There's no way. So
looking back over the years, what has Dana's biggest challenge been since she began exploring?
Being in too big of a rush. I think being in too big of a rush to get somewhere and not enjoying each and every part of the journey. I wish that I would have taken a little bit more time and enjoyed every little second of it a little bit more before rushing to the next step, I'm a very competitive person by nature, and I don't know, I'm just that person. And so I wish I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. What I didn't realize that I wish I would have realized at step one was that this journey's never over. And, you might get put on a pedestal every once in a while, and people might look at you like, oh, you're great, you're amazing. There's always somebody better than you. And if you get into this like comparison game, it is a loser's game. And, you're going to look at the Eileen Davies of the world, the Gordon Smiths of the world, and you can compare yourself to them, and you can compare yourself to the mediums of the past, and you're going to kill yourself. Enjoy where you are at this moment. The other thing that I would offer is your mediumship is going to go, and your psychism even, is going to go through different phases. I have had phases where it's just on fire. Like, I don't know what, like if I took my vitamins, or like, I don't know if like the moon is in the right station. I don't know. But like something happens and I'm pulling names like it's whatever, and everything is just going smoothly. And then something shifts and something changes. But it's meant to shift and change. And that's part of being on the journey. And it can be really frustrating because it can be like, is this thing on tap, tap, tap? It can be really, really frustrating when our mediumship changes. But remembering that our mediumship is meant to change. And if you're not changing, you're not growing. So those parts of my mediumship have been difficult. But remembering that in those moments, like it's gone. It's just shifting and changing to come back in a better way.
And finally, Dana, what allows you to be able to trust in your mediumship now?
They're always here. I am worthy. And it never had to... Okay. Have you ever noticed there are some shitty people that do this work? It never had to do with me being worthy. There are some shitty people that do this work. And the spirit world will use any telephone that they have, even if it's a crap like 1994 Nokia. Like, they're going to use what they have to speak through you. So all you have to do is show up. All you have to do is show up and just be the best voice for the spirit world as you can possibly be. The spirit world does not expect you to be perfect. The spirit world understands your humanness. They love that about you. And I truly believe that our journey as human or as mediums is to heal along this journey in our development, to heal so often right alongside our sitters and who we are reading for. And it is just this ripple effect of, I talked about this not too long ago in Sippin' Sunday, where we all sit in I hold this space every Sunday where we all sit in the power together. And I talked about the ripple effect of just a simple smile. We think mediumship has to be a reading that we give, but we forget that the simple smile that we share with somebody, or just saying hello to somebody, why is that not sharing a gift from the other side? That true love, that for me, the spirit world is love. It is truth. And when we, as the medium out in the world, just share that love, that truth, we're doing mediumship, baby. It ain't that complicated. So I don't know if that answered your question either, but I just started talking from love.
And this is why I love going to your circles, because there's so much lightness to it. There's so much philosophy, and it always touches me. Your words always mean something to me. And if anybody else is listening to this or coming to this from a similar point of view, I know your words would have touched them as well. So I just want to thank you, Dana. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Where can people find you?
I am at Dana Willey Woo on all social media. So, you can find me there. And then Mediumship with Heart is mediumshipwithheart.com is where you can find circles. So we have a free space every Sunday. And then we have development circles throughout the week. We have classes that pop up every once in a while. Private sessions are at danawilley.com. And what else? Oh, podcasts. I'm a Medium, Ask Me How. Hopefully someday we'll record more of those, TBD. And then Super Normal Podcast, as you mentioned. That one is just on all spiritual topics. Again, trying to get my co-hosts to tape is like a whole thing. So it's like herding cats.
Well, luckily it's just me on this podcast, so I only have to worry about myself.
There you go.
And I would thoroughly recommend them, especially I'm a medium. It was so helpful to me. I remember I was scrolling through Spotify trying to find a spiritual podcast or a psychic podcast that spoke to me, and suddenly I found yours, and you were talking about ethics. And that was such an eye-opener to me, because I'd never thought that psychics or mediums would talk about that. And you were talking about the fact that if you do a reading and it doesn't go very well, then you refer, you rebook, or you refund. And so from that episode, I went all the way back to the beginning and listened to them all. So your honesty comes through as it has done today. And once again, Dana, I just want to thank you so much for being on the Psychic Explorer.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Matt. I adore you.
And there you have it, folks. Dana Willey, thank you so much for listening to that. I really hope you found that as enlightening as I did. You know that my previous episodes have focused a lot on my self-trust and my self-belief. And actually, I've come to a stage now where I'm good. I think I'm happy with myself. As happy as anyone can be, that is. But actually, I've got a lot more confidence that I believe in what I say I can do, because of the feedback and validation I have had from the people around me. We might have dips, we might have off days, we might have readings which things don't go very well, but we just rebook, refer, or refund. Something that Dana once reminded me when I reached out to her with a bit of a crisis of confidence. We're all human and we're all allowed to have off days. So I hope you found that as enjoyable as I did. If you felt there wasn't a lot of banter there, that's probably because I was making sure I was on my best behavior and just trying to get things right. But yeah, that was my first interview of the new format. Hop on over to Instagram, Threads, Facebook. You will see the new branding. I don't like to call it that because that makes it feel like it's more than it is, but I'm, for lack of a better word, new branding, new logo. I'm trying to be a bit more interactive or a bit more consistent on Instagram as well. So follow me, reach out to me. As I said before, by me letting you know that you're not alone, let me know that I am not alone. I really look forward to hearing from you. If you have anyone that you would like me to speak with, anyone that you find inspirational, anyone that's really helped you, reach out to me. If you have any questions or if you would like to talk about your experience, I would love to hear from you. Don't feel like, you're not big enough on social media, you're not this, you're not that. I'm not. Really, I'm not. And what a great platform for each of us to help each other out. So consider this a warm invitation to anyone who would like to discuss their journey, their discovery, the catalyst. I'd love to hear from you. You know where I am, the.psychic.explorer. Next time it's going to be a solo episode, so just me, and then after that we're going to have the lovely Charlotte Leach, and she is going to be talking about crystals, something I know very little about, although after speaking with her now I've got a bit more of an idea. I'm not sure I'm going to be putting my crystals outside to charge in the moonlight, but I don't know, I never thought I'd be talking to dead people, and here we are. So look forward to that, because it's a good one. I don't know what it's like where you are, but here in my little corner of the UK, spring has arrived. In fact, you'd be mistaken to think it wasn't summer. It's beautiful. The birds are singing, the sun is shining, the leaves are coming out, all the flowers are in bloom. So enjoy. Get out there, put your feet in nature, soak it up. And until next time, take care, guys. Bye.